that's it basically, you know, because I've done the band thing the traditional way, and I've found that there's always, like, obviously when you don't have any industry behind you, there's always this struggle with, like, you're doing all this, you're putting all your efforts into creating amazing music and doing all this stuff, but if you don't have a fan base who's willing to listen to you, then it doesn't work the same. It's not like, you know, so get the fans first through YouTube, social media, you know, like captivate people first, and then we can then, you know.
Yeah, and one point that's worth noting off the back of that is the moment we knew we needed to do something with the kind of musical ideas and influences that we shared was second year at ICMP, the performance class, the exam at the end of the year was a live gig they booked out in Ambuca in Holloway, which is sadly closed now.
Yeah.
But so we're like, okay. And they let us pick the bands this time. In first year, they put us into it, but in second year, like, you guys can do what you want, 4 songs, whatever you want. Perfect. Let's do Technical Difficulties by Racer X. Perfect chance to show people what we like to do, you know?
That was a roast.
And we learned it for like 4 months straight, you know, but it went over really well. And people loved it. Like, oh, you guys have great chemistry on stage. And I finally got to play some heavy music. And so we're like, oh, and then Vinnie came to me with
I woke up, we played that gig, the assessment, the final assessment. And then it went so well. We got so many compliments that I woke up the next day and instantly I was up and I was like, we got to take this to YouTube, you know? So I called Pete straight away and I was like, man, we have to, like, do a guitar channel. It'll be me and you. It can be called Pete and Vinnie Play. You know, we're just going to play. We're going to bring that energy we had on that performance to the camera in front. Like, we're going to do that in front of the camera for everyone, like, anywhere, so they can see that, you know? So, and just to finish off as well, Carl, like, so I've seen, obviously, I've been around for a while. I've seen many bands start and fail and, like, break up and then, you know, and I've been seeing that for years now, you know, ever since I've been in London. But about 6 years ago, what I started to see, which was like this new phenomenon in my head, is YouTubers were very successful on YouTube. Like, you know, some of them, like Rob Chapman, you know, Jared Dines, Rabia, you know, Ola, YouTubers that were very successful creating content for YouTube. And then when they played a gig, it could be a Monday, anywhere in the country, it was always sold out, you know, and I could see they were posting about this tours and stuff, and they were touring and they were gigging and they were like selling loads of merch and the people were queuing up to see them. And they were like medium to like decent sized YouTubers that have been creating content, and then they eventually formed a band. And when they go out and do it, the fan base is always there, you know? So those guys really were my main inspiration for this business model, you know? It's our main inspiration, you know? It's like, I was like, remember when Dorje was touring, Carl, you know? Yeah. Dorje was like Rob Chapman's band, you know? They would play
I toured with them.
Yeah, I know. It was Stormborn, right?
Yeah.
Those were great times.
Yeah.
But so you've experienced it firsthand. They would play 10 days in the UK over like a couple of weeks, and they're sold out every day.
Yeah.
You know, that comes off the back of YouTube. So when we had the idea of doing stuff together, that was the first thing I wanted to put forward to Pete, was like, you know, we need to get these fans first, you know? Yeah. So when we go and do it, like the actual music stuff, I want to be like these guys, you know, like this new generation of musicians. They don't have the label support, they don't have like a manager or anything, but they don't even need one, you know, because like they're touring anyway, they're doing it anyway. It's exactly the same thing, you know, but they're not on MTV.
Absolutely. It's really crazy how the TikTok and the YouTube and all the social media is impacting every musician and band's career. I just did a week ago a show for this American band called Halocene in North London at the Dome, and it was their very first time in London. Mind you, I've never heard of them before. And they were playing their very first gig in London, and it was completely sold out for 500 people. And then I met the guys in the band and I spoke to them, and I was just inquiring what was the deal. And basically during COVID, they exploded on TikTok with a bunch of videos and music and stuff. And just because of that, they've managed to obviously secure a deal with a booking agent, which, you know, saw that they had an impact, that there was people, you know, mentioning them online, that the views were like exploding, etc., etc., etc. And then they took a chance with them, and they literally first time in England touring the UK and Europe. But I mean, I did the London show, and it was sold out. Imagine you come from America, and then your first gig in London is for 500 people, completely sold out. Like,
it's amazing.
you know, and that's all, and that's the power of the internet. But then obviously, those are the successful, great stories. But next to that, there's millions of others, you know, that are trying or dreaming of hitting the jackpot, as per se, you know, on getting viral somehow. My question is, like, how to, because obviously your channel is doing extremely well, but I attribute that not only because of the quality of what you guys do, both of you, the high caliber guitarists and musicians that you both are, but also to the fact that is consistent. There's consistency in on the content provided, on the content created, and I think that it's just a given that in life, anything you're gonna do, you're gonna have to be consistent, because if you do it for a while, I mean, it fades away very quickly, you know. Or if you just keep like spaced out for too long, people lose interest of it. And how can you make, like, in this world, what do you guys attribute to the fact that you guys like have hundreds of thousands of views on videos of yours? What was the differentiator, you think? What was put behind the scenes into it? Not only about the playing, the songs that you choose, the way that you express yourselves, but what else in terms of like planning and figuring out what's the next step? How can we make this particular video go, you know, viral?
Can I just say something, Carl, even before I answer that? Just in case anyone is listening to us and they want to like be like a YouTuber, or they want to do the social media thing, like kind of like we're doing. I just want to say that I think the main difference I see between traditional industry, like the kind of getting signed path, you know, and YouTube, is it has to do with what you were saying about the consistency. Because I think you could say, if you want to be in a band and all you're doing is the band and you're hoping to get like a booking agent or get a manager or get signed, you can easily do that for 10 years, and it doesn't matter how good you are. You can do that for 10 years and nothing, and there's a really big chance that nothing will come out of it, you know. But with YouTube, if you do it consistently, it's a much more fair space. If you do YouTube consistently for 2-3 years, you will get bigger and more known. That's just a fact, you know. If you have to have this like kind of self-feedback cycle, you know. You put a video out and that doesn't do well, then what's wrong? You have to always be addressing and changing and adapting your content. But if you do that consistently, eventually your channel will grow. It might be very slow in the beginning, but the channel grows. But with the band thing, it's not always that fair. It could be that you do the band for like 5-6 years, and by the time you finish, you haven't grown pretty much anything, like at all, compared to when you started, you know. And with YouTube, you have that kind of, it levels the playing field. I really believe that there's room for everyone. There's always people out there that are potential viewers, you know. And if you do it consistently, eventually people start knowing who you are.
Yeah, and it keeps working for you as well.
It works for you.
Video out, you know.
Because the element of luck is not there, you know, on YouTube. With the band stuff, with the traditional industry model, you need an element of luck, of meeting the right person, or like whatever the right person being interested in you, or are you playing in front of X, Y people or whatever, you know. That element, you don't need that for YouTube. For YouTube, is like a sincere, instant feedback. If you put something out and people like it, they will watch it and they'll let you know as well. So it's very rewarding. Straight away they can comment on it, you know, and like, oh, I'm doing something right. Then you keep doing that. Then if a video doesn't do that well, you think, oh, that didn't work, let me change strategies, you know. And with the band, you don't have that, you know. You with the band stuff, like if you're doing that alone, it's like you're blind for a lot of the time, you know. That was my experience, at least, you know. If you're not getting, you know, if you don't have any traditional industry behind you, you know?
Yeah.
So, sorry. Okay. Now, the other thing you asked, Carl, was
How
what
do you
goes
guys?
behind.
How exactly? What's the planning behind it? How do you guys batch record stuff? Do you
Yeah.
guys meet regularly? What's I mean, how do you make a decision on? Are we gonna cover this tune now?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, basically, the number one thing is that we never stop talking. We're always messaging.
Well, we live 5 minutes walk from each other as well.
Oh, that's great! I didn't know that.
So it's so important.
Very
But
important.
it's happened before that like me and Pierre trying to sort out this song on the phone, you know, like, oh, but what's played here, you know, well, like how is the picking pattern for this part or whatever. And then we're like, I'm coming over, you know, let me just come
Brilliant.
over, you know, and then that is so helpful, you know, because we've done it for a while when you're like we were far, and that makes it a lot harder. But yeah,
so yeah, we're always communicating, and we're always just like we're always trying to think ahead and be proactive as much as we can, because it is more difficult in certain ways because there's two of us, because we always have to collaborate, we always have to talk.
Yeah. So we don't have that benefit of doing a spontaneous video. If I'm home and I have an idea, I can't just turn the camera on and do a little story or like do a little reels for Instagram. You know, we need to obviously get together. So that makes our production a bit slower. But I would say the main thing is the planning, isn't it? We have meetings, like we're like a business. We sit down, we plan ahead, we batch record, like you said. We can easily do 8 to 10 Instagrams in a day. Wow. And that's content for the next 2 months, you know? That's for one platform. And then for YouTube, we have different shows that we do. Say we have the covers, we have the lessons, we have vlogs, reaction videos. So some of them we can batch record. Some of them are not that easy, like the covers. One cover can take 2 weeks from learning, recording, mixing, and editing.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks of consistent.
Yeah, and especially if it's a bit of a roasty one, like a hard one to play, you know, that could be like a couple of weeks just polishing the parts. Then we need to practice separate, we need to practice together. That's for the covers, you know. So those ones take more time, but we know this, right? We know some formats that we do, they are going to be more spaced out. So we do like one cover a month or even a bit more sometimes, you know, but like lessons, reactions, we can batch record them a bit more. So it's all in the planning, really, you know. We always have content ahead for the next 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, always working a few months ahead,
you know,
for sure.
Always.
I think that one of the big differentiators for you guys is that you do, and I think you do it really well, is the fact that everything that you just described, you know, you do covers, and then you do lessons, and then you do reactions, and then like, I mean, it's quite mixed, and the reactions is really funny, you know. It's like it's a good laugh, and I don't know if it's because I'm biased and I know you too, both of you, but I mean, I looked like I fucking love
honestly, don't even get me with the reactions. I don't fully understand why is it that it works so well. I honestly think it has to do with like people just like to see another mammal, like just reacting.
And you know what, like, you know, that's one instance where the having two of us helps, because we can have discussion about it. If it's just one guy reacting, that can be funny, you know, but like the fact that we're both reacting, then we chat about it, I think that gives something for people to
I think there's something like, it's a human connection that people like to see. It's just really, I think it's like, it can be like biologically like someone else's expression.
It's something, you know, something to do with that.
It's like, I'm sure there will be like dissertations and case studies done on this very soon, you know, because the reaction thing started like 2 or 3 years ago, you know. It wasn't a thing before.
It was fairly new, you
know, and it just works so well. I watch reactions, people watch us, you know. It's just something. I remember first time we've done it, it was crazy. Like you work like 2 weeks super hard on this cover, and you do it and you play it perfectly, and then like it gets X amount of views, and then you do a reaction video in 10 minutes and it gets like 500,000 views, you know. And that pays as well. That's the thing, don't forget that, you know, the numbers, they pay as well, you know. So
and you've just released your own merch range, right?
Yes.
Which is really cool. I've thank you both for my birthday gift. I love it. It's one of the T-shirts.
Pleasure, man.
I'm packing this week to go to Hawaii, and it's going to be a small suitcase, but that's a T-shirt that is coming with me because I loved it so much.
Thanks, man.
That's lovely.
The color is beautiful, and obviously the caricatures, you know, in the back that Fernanda, Vinny's partner, did.
My partner, yeah.
So amazing, so cool. I mean, there's so much you can actually do with that. I love the fact there is a collection of all of them in the back. It could have been like the pink T-shirt with Zach Wilde, whatever, you know. But it's all of them there. Like, so the collection is right there, you know.
I'm not sure we've ever told you this, Carl, but those guys were picked by the Pete and Vinnie community.
Really? I didn't know
on YouTube, on Instagram. Yeah, so it's a collaborative design. So what we've done, we had the idea of making like a T-shirt with our 9 favorite guitarists, metal guitarists, yeah, as like doodles, like almost like stick figures, you know. So that idea was solid, and it came from us. Okay, let's do this. So when we sat down to pick our favorite 9, we couldn't do it. So we were like, how about we just ask the fans, you know,
let them choose
our guitar community. So we went to Instagram, YouTube. We did all these polls. We tallied everything up, and the 9 that made it to the actual final design, they were picked by our followers.
Very cool. Very cool. I didn't know that.
The only thing we did was to put them in chronological order, you know. So it starts with Tony Iommi, and then like you get.
Oh, that I didn't realize, but yeah.
So it's like who got famous first, kind of thing. So Tony Iommi in the '70s with Black Sabbath, and then like, who was the next one?
Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen, yeah, and then it went to
Randy Rhoads, yeah. So if anyone wanted to check that out, if you go to peteandvinniestore.com, you can see the designs Carl's talking about.
We're gonna put all that in the show notes as well. The Instagram account, which is Pete Vinnie Play. It's PETE Vinnie VINNIEPLAY. And the YouTube, what is it? Is it Pete Vinnie Play?
It's Pete and Vinnie Play for you on YouTube. Yeah.
And Pete
the end in there on the YouTube. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. We're gonna have all that on the show notes anyway, so people can go and check it out. This has been lingering in my mind for a few minutes since we were talking about the formation, the getting together and putting you guys together as a duo before having a band. But if I recollect, Vinny, you said that the band is actually that is in your minds. You created basically this in order to create a fan base to eventually be able to put together a group. And then
we want to be playing. That's for sure. You know.
Yeah.
What kind of band and music? And that's question 1. What kind of band do you guys see yourselves eventually putting together? And question number 2: are you guys writing music as well together?
Yeah. So. Well,
yeah. So we're at the stage now where that is the next step. You know, we've built a fan base who we like, and they seem to like what we do, which is amazing.
They're willing to listen to us.
Yeah, you know. So now we're like the appropriate next step. And now we're officially a business. You know, we're registered as a company. We have this merch store and stuff. So now the appropriate next step for us is to write music. You know, so that's going to be the first thing on the cards for us in the coming year. The new year, basically.
So with regards of what kind of music we've already decided we're going to start with an instrumental EP. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to write, I don't know how many tracks, 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
You know, and it will be a cross between Racer X and
something more modern and
metalcore, you know. Yeah. So we want to have lots of shred in there. We want to bring those harmonies into it, you know, like the classic, like 90s kind of. Because, you know, we take a lot of inspiration from the golden era of guitar, you know. And that's like early 90s, really, isn't it? Like when like all the guys were super blown up, you know, like the guys that like that's when technique reached its peak, you know, like the industry was very guitar oriented. Shrapnel Records was releasing all these amazing artists all the time. So we want to bring that element into the music that we write, but we want to obviously make it modern, heavier, you know, like lower tunings for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna probably tune to drop C and so basically exactly what you're saying, bringing elements of the shred school, which we both undeniably come from. But at the same time, we don't want it to sound dated, you know. So we want to have a modern sound and probably make some electronic elements in there. You know,
so quite modern. So we want to start like that. We want to see what we can do and write music instrumentally, and then see how that goes. Because the logistics of having a full band as well in the beginning, we don't want to have that to slow us down. You know, that's very important. Like, we don't want to, you know, we want to keep rolling at the same pace. You know, we've done all this work on YouTube. So we're trying to minimize
resistance,
drama, might I say so?
Yeah, resistance. I think it's resistance, I want to be streamlined, you know.
Streamlined. But then obviously after that in the future, well, I think we're quite open to other stuff, you know. Like, it would be nice to be, it would be nice if we could be in a touring band, touring like full traditional band, you know, with a singer, you know, some sort of aggressive music.
That'd be the ultimate end goal, I think. You know?
Yeah, it would be lovely to do that, you know. To do stuff with obviously singing and lyrics and everything.
Very cool.
But our immediate what we're doing first is basically to writing these instruments, because we need to see what we're able to do as well. You see, like, we want to test, like, we can play together. You know, we've been playing together for a while. We've been doing covers. We've written bits of music. Quite a lot actually, for like videos and stuff like that, you know, and little competitions here. It's
an exercise as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
writing music. I mean,
get together and fully produce songs, because that's different.
It is
when you're songwriting, you know. There's a lot more elements than to just put like two guitar parts together, you know.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
So we want to see what we can do, you know.
That's honestly very intelligent and a very intelligent and clever approach, because it really is a completely different monster writing songs, and you only develop. It's a skill that you develop. If you don't practice writing music, if you don't practice writing songs, I mean, number one, you're never gonna get any songs, and number two, you're never gonna get any good songs, because the first ones will likely suck. You know.
Yeah. And how is it to write like a cheesy riff that doesn't say anything? You know, or like, it's so easy to do that.
Exactly.
You know, out of 10 things that you write, 7 or 8 are disposable, really.
Probably 8,
you know?
80%,
yeah. It is really hard. So it's another thing that it's time consuming, that you kind of have to put in what's the word?
Put in the hours, basically.
No, but I was going to say, because you're doing so many different things with Pete and Vinnie Play.
I mean, like a compromise.
It's another say another box that you can have. Okay, let's open this box, which is more time. Another window of time on my life, because we keep opening windows of time in our lives and accommodating things. But then if you're going to start writing, now it's another window of time for Pete and Vinnie Play that you need to accommodate in order to create that and make that evolve. Do you know what I mean?
To be fair, Carl, I think we're fully ready to. We're not going to have to take a break from YouTube, because, like I said, we always have content, but we might need to set some time aside to just write in the new year, because. You can't do everything.
No, there's only so many hours in a day, and I think
we might take a month or two to just fully focus on that creative process, you know. But obviously, the channel, Instagram, everything's going to keep going, you know, because
that's the main thing.
We've planned for it, you know. We've planned for that. You know?
Yeah, and as you said, Carl, I found really it rings true with myself, is like, being creative and writing, it really does take practice. There's a common misconception that you get a spur of inspiration, and this can happen sometimes. You know, you get a spur of inspiration. But that's not the rule, you know. But no, you need to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to take this hour to try and create something, you know, and sit down. Maybe you get something great, maybe you don't get much, you know, but it's about that process and practicing, as you said.
I really admire and I love hearing you both talk, because I identify myself with so much of what you're saying, and life in general is so dependable on the discipline, the focus, the planning, the you know, all of those things that a lot of people, sometimes they take things for granted. They think, oh, how can these guys do it and I can't? Well, they are putting in the work, they're putting in the time, they're sacrificing perhaps time with their families, time with their loved ones, with their friends. They are, you know, working, doing several different things in order to sustain things and keep things going. And I mean, it's never easy, but people obviously all only see, you know, the final result, which is what we post. I mean, you're not gonna post, you know, online the day that you're like, you know, struggling and questioning yourself. Am I doing the right thing with my life? Which happens to all of us, and it's great because like observing and contemplating and self analysis is extremely important to in order to, you know, for inner growth, which leads me to the next question, which is kind of not, it's not perhaps music related, it's not music related actually, but like aside from music and the guitar world and the channel and everything else, what else are you guys interested? What I mean, what do you guys say, listen and hear? What are the subjects that you are interested on? Can start with Pete and then we go with Vinnie.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question, and I find these days it's harder and harder to find time to continue to have those things in your life. You know, when you're working to pay the bills and using every bit of spare time you have to, you know, make the dream happen with music and stuff. It's tough, yeah. But for me, I think if I wasn't in music, I would probably be in some sort of science discipline, because my dad's a scientist, and so I've always been interested in that kind of stuff, like biology. I find that stuff so interesting, you know, like natural stuff, like earth sciences. I always enjoy that kind of stuff. Like there's a podcast called New Scientist. If you guys have heard of that, that's a really good one. So yeah, I really like science kind of stuff. In terms of other stuff, I'm really into kind of like true crime and murder mysteries and stuff like that. You know, I have a soft spot for that. I really find that stuff intriguing, you know. Criminal psychology, all that kind of stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, the classic. America is very good at putting out shows like that. I think if you grew up on that, you can never.
Pete, what kind of? I mean, very interesting. I didn't know that about you. What kind of scientist is your dad?
So he's kind of, by title, he's a chemist, right? So he went to, when he was still in the UK, he lived here until he was about 22, and he went to Oxford, and then got his master's at Oxford, and then he moved to the US to pursue. The reason he moved over there is because he wanted to. There was a specific PhD path that he wanted to follow, and for some reason he couldn't find it here. So he went to a school called Penn State, you know, which is in Pennsylvania, the state where I'm from, and he went and pursued his thing there. And then he did his work in. Specifically for many years researching childhood leukemia, because it's one of the rarer forms of cancer in children, and because of that it's underfunded, you know, so the mortality rate is quite high. So he spent his time in labs researching that kind of stuff. So he's way smarter than I'll ever be, basically.
Wow, that's extremely cool. Just hearing you talk about your dad makes me, you know, I want to talk to him.
Yeah, honestly, me too, man. Like,
sounds like a very intelligent man, very well educated man. That's really cool.
So I've had a lot of inspiration from him, you know. So it was nice to have him growing up.
Very cool. What about you, Vinnie?
Well, I think well, obviously the channel and guitar takes a huge chunk of my life. You know, like I'm always thinking about either playing guitar or thinking about what to do for the channel and what to do next, and like, so music is a huge part of it, you know. So, but when I'm not doing that stuff, I think it's safe to say I have a passion for movies, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I think that I'm always trying to watch one or two movies every week, like interesting stuff, you know? I've been enjoying going to the gym recently as well, which is pretty cool, you know? Like I've been a bit lazy with the gym recently, but then I've decided to like, because basically what happened was, I had a problem with my shoulder. You know, my shoulder was hurting. And then I was like struggling to play. Can you believe that? So like it completely freaked me out. So I went to see a physiotherapist, and they gave me like a training program that was going to help me fix my shoulder. And then it did. So as soon as my shoulder was 100% again, I got a taste for it again, you know. So I started going to the gym a bit more intensively for the last, 4 or 5 months, I would say. You know, obviously traveling whenever we can, you know, opening your mind. Traveling is one of the most fantastic things you can do, you know.
For sure.
Seeing other cultures, you know. And obviously enjoying London. There's always something to do in London, you know. Like it's a it's an amazing city. You can always just go and try new food or whatever, go around, go for a walk.
The world is your oyster in a place like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
What else is there? Me and Pete, we love going drinking together.
yeah. We love a good trip to the pub,
Socially,
who doesn't?
We love a bit of a crafty beer. We like a bit of brew dog. We like a bit of that's one of our very often we just finish a whole day of hard work and we just pop into the pub for a couple.
But it's lovely, isn't it? It's a good reward.
I love that the craft beer craze is really taken off in the UK, because it was kind of born it was nice to have grown up in the States a bit, because in the Northeast it's like a mecca for craft beer, like New York and all the states in the Northeast. They're mad on it. It's crazy. Yeah. And obviously there's such a market for it here, so I'm happy that it's you go to the Prince, that's the pub nearest us, and they rotate every week. There's a new craft beer.
It's always nice. You need to come over one day.
I need to go. I was going to say that. I need to. I've never been to the Prince.
Yeah. Prince is great. So pub.
Very cool.
One more thing about me is I'm an absolute horror fanatic. I love horror films. Everything's scary, dark. I love that shit, man. I don't know why. I always have. So yeah, that's another thing.
What, and when you say gore, you mean like gore movies or like horror in? Because I always have this there's some gore movies and there's some movies like The Exorcist. For me, The Exorcist is the kind of movie that for me is terror. That for me is when there's someone cutting someone's head off and things like that. I mean, I'm kind of old school. I actually, when I was a teenager, I used to really like it. But I grew up obviously watching Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Jason Voorhees, and Friday 13th, and then The Exorcist. But then, after I've left my teens, I kind of lost interest. But yeah, I'm kind of I actually just put the other day on my watch list on eBay. I want to get the full Blu-ray box set of the Friday 13th, and I'm gonna go and watch the whole the whole thing again. Maybe not now, Christmas time. It doesn't sound very Christmassy of me, but
yeah, no, that's amazing, man. No. I promise I won't talk for ages about this, but I have to comment on your point about movies and stuff. So yeah, The Exorcist, I could not agree more. That is that is kind of the magnum opus of
the Bible in it.
Exactly, it's the Bible.
Oh, how ironic!
Yeah, but it's the Bible of horror, and because the thing about The Exorcist is it's so scary. Like anyone, you don't even have to be religious or Christian or whatever. It's so inherently scary, that film, and one because it's so well made. And all the effects are mechanical, the vomit and the head spinning. It's nothing CGI, because it's made in the 70s. And it's also just an excellent story. It's a classic theme between the battle between good and evil. But if you've read the book as well, it's an amazingly written story, So it's just that's really scary. Yeah, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched all that stuff as well,
Is it The Exorcist based on a true story?
It is based around on a true story. Yeah, there was actually, in the movie it's a girl, obviously, but in real life it was a boy in I think Missouri or one of the kind of middle states in America, and the case of Roland Doe was the name of it. I don't know if his real name is I don't know if that's his real name, but I think that was kind of the name they gave to him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was based upon that case. Yeah.
Very cool. And Vinnie, what I mean, any movies that you have watched recently that you could recommend? Anything that comes up to your mind?
I have actually went to see a couple of movies recently. One of them is I'll recommend it to anyone. I'll mention this one. It's called The Menu. It's only in the cinemas now. I don't think you can. It's not on Netflix, or you can't watch it, you can't stream it. But it's called The Menu, and it's basically a satire, a take on fine dining. So it's basically about this group of people that go to this restaurant for the ultimate fine dining experience. Okay. Yeah, and it's in an island, and it's this famous chef and stuff. And when they get there, all this stuff starts happening and stuff. But they filmed it a bit like Chef's Table, So during the movie, there's a beautiful shot of the dish, and the title, the name of the dish and everything. Yeah. I think it's kind of a horror movie in a way, but more psychological, not explicit horror.
Oh, I love psychological.
It's like a thriller,
That's a great genre.
And all this stuff starts happening, with a hint of comedy as well. It's
Yeah.
it's a funny take on like the world of fine dining when people think, you know, like the idea of like the chefs are the most important thing in the universe, and people think they're like,
Yeah.
forget about doctors, engineers, you know, like, you know,
chef
it's like, it's
yeah,
like, oh my God, chefs, you know, okay, fine.
Yeah.
It's a dish, you know, okay. Anyway, I know there's art in cooking, of course, and everything, but I thought it was a genius.
Was like kind of a take on that.
Yeah, it's
I
a
see.
genius answer to that
I
universe,
see.
you know.
Yeah.
So I recommend The Menu to anyone who's
Is this a movie already on your board? Because I know that you have a
Oh,
movie
yes.
board in your living
We
room.
need to add it onto it. We need to add it. Yeah. yeah.
Does that
Good.
list changes, rotates, or is it always?
No, we normally just add, you know,
You
because
just add.
to make it onto the list, it needs to be like
To be worthy.
near life changing, you know.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Let me ask you about if you guys do you, either of you or both of you, do you have any, say, spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs? What is there anything that you believe, and if so, where does that emerge from? From family, from life, from?
So I don't have any religious beliefs, you know, but I basically I believe in this line of like everything around breathing, you know, that idea. I think that if like that is always worth tapping into that, you know, like is that some amazing stuff can happen. If you obviously focus on your breath and stuff, you know, I think that's always valid. But in terms of traditional religion and spirituality in that more like kind of mythical sense, I don't have any beliefs, you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, but atheist. Don't never really believed in any religion, religious path or anything like that. But the one thing I do believe in, whether it's kind of coming from a spiritual realm or whatever, is karma. It's like what you put in, karma and kind of manifestation as well. Like if you put in the work, the energy, you know, and you can perceive energy however you want, whether it's kind of more of like an esoteric kind of thing that the universe gives and pushes and pulls, or whether it's just physical energy. Like if you put that into anything, you can do anything. You know, you will get out from this world what you put in. I kind of try and live my life by that kind of mantra, you know.
I think, well, because defining spirituality is such a broad term, isn't it? People think about different things when they hear that word, you know. I think we are, as human beings, I think we are connected somehow, like kind of by nature. Like I think there's definitely energy around, you know. But that's it really. Yeah, so I try to respect that and value that, you know, and try to always be in touch with, like, you know, how do you behave, you know, what energy do you put out, you know, that kind of stuff.
That's a very good point, actually.
You know,
because energy between people is so strong. It's like if someone's putting out a negative vibe, whether it's in a social context, at the pub, whatever, at work, it's so hard not to get wrapped up in that. You know, if someone's really negative, it's like, oh, you kind of feel, and vice versa with positivity. You know,
but I think everyone has a lot to gain from if they can sit down and breathe. You know, even if it's like 10 minutes a day, I think it can be pretty amazing the differences that you can feel if you start doing that as a habit. You know,
you're quite into that as well, aren't you, Carl, with meditation and stuff?
I couldn't agree more. I would definitely attribute meditation as one, if not the most impactful habits that I have acquired on my life during the last 5 years. That's
amazing, man.
It really, and it is a habit. I meditate every day, no matter where I am and what I'm doing.
So how long do you do it every day, Carl?
So if I'm at home and I do, if I'm, say, on a normal day of my life and I have the time, it will be anything between 15 and 25 minutes in the morning and another 5-10 minutes in the evening.
And is that as soon as you wake up, or
as soon as I wake up?
First thing.
Yeah, I get up, get out of bed, go to the loo, back, sit down, meditate on an empty stomach. That's how it's kind of what you're supposed to do. I can't remember exactly the specifics for it, but I think that the theory behind it is that on an empty stomach you don't have your organs and your organism basically processing any food, therefore not consuming any oxygen. So you're fully present at the moment. You are, say, fasting because you've just spent the whole night sleeping, so you're on a fasted state. And Indians and Buddhists, and they will say that meditation is very connected to that. You know, for several for millennia, they talk about the benefits of fasting and the meditation.
There's a huge difference between doing yoga when you wake up on an empty stomach and doing yoga in the afternoon. I find it completely different. You know, like yoga, then fasting is definitely the way to go, at least for me. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I do that in the morning, but the thing is, like anything that you do, you can be very caught up with the idea that, oh, so I meditated now 15 minutes. Now I come out of the meditative state and I just, boom, my mind comes back, turn it on and brrr, during the day. So I know a lot of people that will, for example, meditate 1 minute at every hour of every waking hour of the day. So you instead of just having 15 minutes at 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 minutes at 10 in the evening, you are actually spreading out the processing, the rewiring of your brain throughout the day. So instead of 2 specific moments, you're actually maintaining that rewiring of the brain in several.
That's so interesting.
So I have adopted literally like during the last 2 years. So at any given moment, I can go to the loo somewhere, and I can just basically close my eyes and go to that place intentionally.
Oh, that's amazing.
I can just go do anything, be on a train anywhere, and instead of just like keep thinking, because we're always thinking. Your brain is like that. Instead of doing that, I consciously make the decision to and just go there, because that's the exercise of rewiring your brain and being more observant than reactional. So instead of reacting to everything and to experience, because everything is experience. Everything that we believe as real is an experience that we are having, of an interaction that we are having based on something that our brains and our minds are perceiving as real. But what about other forms of life that perceive and understand things in a completely different way, see things in a different way? So having that understanding really, really, really benefited me in so many different ways, and I can absolutely, like I said, attribute lots of things, my personal evolvement, my personal evolution to that. So every time that I speak to people, I always say, if you could do anything today that is free and it will have an impact on your life for good, is, like Vinnie said, every day sit down, focus on your breathing, and try to be as present as possible. Try to understand that you have something that is inside of your head and only inside of your head. But all of us, 7.5 billion humans on the planet, have that.
And it's already there, isn't it? Yeah.
That voice inside of your head that creates anxiety, that creates depression, that creates happiness, that creates everything that you feel, and therefore, you put out in the world, that is controllable. You can control that. You can pick and choose the thoughts that you're going to engage with. But because we are so programmed in the way that we are as humans, we don't understand the mechanics of that. Nobody tells us about the mechanics of that. Nobody teaches us about the mechanics of that. Therefore, we are reactional. We react. We get angry, get pissed off. But every feeling that you have, you're the only responsible for allowing yourself to engage with that. And it's extremely difficult to control those things. But if you practice the meditation on a daily basis, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, you will only become better at it. And you guys know very well, if you practice and you practice and you practice.
It's lovely to hear, man. Sometimes it needs to be like I do as much as I can, but I used to do. I think I need to make it into like even a more rigid daily thing,
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was more on it, I still do it these days, but when I was more on it, I felt better,
Yeah.
It's in the beginning it's difficult, because think about this. Okay, I'm gonna have to create 10 minutes in the morning that doesn't exist right now. So instead of getting up at 7, I'm gonna have to get up at 6:45 in order to accommodate this. Just that change of pattern on your waking up or going to bed people struggle with it because people don't have time, because you don't have time to do things, and that's all in the mind, all inside of you, you know.
Yeah.
But the more you practice that, then gets to what Pete was saying about karma. Man, I firmly believe, I've had so many examples on my life, and I'm sure you both had it as well, that, you know, you think, oh, but nobody's seeing this, you know. This person will never know about this, and you can go on, and unbeknownst to you, at some point in your life, it doesn't even need to be the same currency, but you're gonna be like, oh fuck, why did this happen to me?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Well, okay, so if I took £5 from here, and now something I didn't expect, oh, there's £5 gone, but how did I? Well, but didn't you like 3 years ago took £5 from that, and now, oh, okay, fair enough. It's not always automatic. The universe, we don't understand how those things operate.
I think if you do stuff like that, you change the way you behave, and that comes across as well.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're dodgy or whatever behind someone's back, then you're not going to be normal around them or whatever, around the universe.
Because you have a conscience.
Exactly.
You know, it always comes back. Yeah.
You know, that it really molds like what happens to you after that, you know, those decisions, you know.
Yeah, I personally became way more selective with the years, with who I spend my time with, you know, what, you know, and a lot of people that are very spiritual, and they're super open, and they hang around with everyone, and everyone is a friend and everything. I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's your own choice. Who do you spend time with? What do you create time for it, you know? And I think it's extremely important to understand that, you know, a lot of people are not in tune with the subject that we are talking here, and without them being aware of it, they might be in a position where, you know, they depend on sucking people's energies out. And sometimes you are a very energetic person and you can definitely spread that around, but sometimes, you know, it's just good for you to just, okay, I'm going to spread, but I'm going to spread where it's, you know, where there's value in it. Like, okay, this is gonna go somewhere. This is positive. Where instead of just spend time with people that, you know, are just not worthwhile. And I don't mean to sound harsh in any way. It's just like being selective, I guess.
But I guess that's important, you know, because it's like some maturity that you gain with time. You know, like it's, you know, picking people around you, I think it's a huge thing.
I think it's a natural thing as well when you get older. You know, some people, like, that's why people drift. You know, it's like if one person matures at a different rate than another, they realize that person is not. And again, it sounds harsh if you just put it like this, but it's, you know, it's just kind of a natural way of life. You know, people drift and people take different paths, and yeah, as you said, Carl, you realize what kind of things you need, you know, in your life, and what kind of energy you need, and all the things like that. You know,
absolutely. Guys, I mean, I honestly, now I'm getting in the flow of the conversation. I could most definitely keep going for another hour, but that's why I've suggested in the beginning, and if you guys are up for it, let's do a part 2 of this conversation.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then we can do it also in the studio, and having a beer and having an even more, you know, informal conversation. But I really enjoyed talking to you both, and connecting so many various dots about things that I find it really, really important, man. And that's how I've been living my life. But nowadays I really kind of like, I'm very firm about it. The fact that, you know, you kind of have to have certain traces within you, and not only in terms of your personality, but your education and the people that you connect with, the people that you spend time with, the way that your brain works in order to fulfill your dreams, you know, and keep pushing and keep going. Because at the end of the day, it's obviously easier said than done, but we are kind of caught up in this reality of ours, which again, very debatable, obviously, but I firmly believe that in the end of the day, we're all the same thing. We're pure energy, but because we lit our brains, and then we are awake, and then we have an experience with the world, you know, we're experiencing something. It's not, and the world is all within us. We get so caught up with that, and eventually caught up with society, and caught up with, like, I need to have a career, I need to do this, because that's how we have evolved for millions of years, and we are just a reflection of all that. We end up losing sight of so many beautiful things that happen to us because we're so caught up on my career, my things, my home, my house, the bills, and the society that we live in. So well done to you both. I really admire you both as friends and on what you do. It's a fucking pleasure to call you my friends. And thanks for making the time. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I'll put on the show notes the information about your social media and all. And guys, do go check Pete and Vinnie play, because they are not only amazing guitarists, musicians, but they are super funny as well.
Well, thank you very much, Carl.
Thank you so much for having us, man. Honestly, it's always really, really nice to talk to you. You know, I have to say, just like as a side note, I take great pleasure in following your achievements. You know, and I love seeing everything that you're doing with your career. You know, the way you kind of like developing in the music business. You know, and everything else that you do, really. You know, so it's a real pleasure talking to you. It's always very inspiring. You know.
Yeah, no.
Please keep posting those cool stories and videos of the stuff that you do.
Yeah, you're making big moves, man. I'm proud of you, man. It's
lovely,
impressive.
Man.
Yeah,
you know, it's an honor. Honestly, very cool, man. Very inspiring. You know, I hope everyone takes inspiration from that as well. You know.
Thanks, Vinny. Appreciate the kind words, my friend, and you too, Pete.
Yeah, cheers, man.
Let's come into a closure then, and I'll speak to you both soon.
Cheers, Carl.
Have a nice day,
Cheers.
man. Thank you. See ya.
I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, this podcast, as much as I did doing it. So if that's the case, please do follow on Instagram at rollercoastercarl, myself at Carl Casagrande, on Twitter, same thing, Facebook, same thing. Do subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Spotify. That's very, very much appreciated. Thank you, and have a great day. Cheers. Bye-bye.